Hello, hello, hello. So this again is another video here for heroes. We're going to be looking at symbolism and how symbols are used throughout the novel. Remember, there will be some videos of mice and men, heroes and inspector calls, and there will be some language revision videos available for you soon. Make sure you're doing them. It is super important. But let's get into it. So symbolism, it is important in the novel. It happens quite a lot, and in lots of different ways, but there are three things in particular that really symbolize quite a few different things throughout the novel and through the story, and they are important. So let's jump into it. So the first one is Francis's scarf. This is an easy one to look at, an easy one to use in terms of symbolism because it symbolizes so much. So the quote there that I've pulled out: the scarf is white and silk like the aviators wore in the aeroplanes back during the First World War over the battlefields and trenches of Europe. I like to think that it flows behind me in the wind when I walk, but I guess it doesn't. So here, what could this symbolise? Well, it could symbolise a fair few things. It could symbolise that idea of appearance and reality. You know, in his head, the aviators during the war, heroes, soldiers, men we wanted to be, but actually it doesn't look like that. So we could be looking at that sort of appearance and reality discussion there. But also that idea of a disguise, of hidden identity, of Francis being cut off from the world. That scarf symbolises that block that he has built, that distancing that he has created between other people. Because we do have to think about, does Francis Cassavant actually exist anymore? I know at the beginning of the novel he says, "My name is Francis Cassavant," but some people could argue that Francis Cassavant, the person of Francis Cassavant, died on that grenade, or even died the night that Larry attacked Nicole. Some people could argue we could go that far back. And actually, the person we have now is this mixture of just guilt and regret and anger and revenge. And that scarf could perhaps symbolise in that Francis is no longer there. Linking it to his mission, remember that scarf is there to hide his identity from everyone around him, in terms of not recognizing him, but also so that Larry doesn't know he's back. But I think more than that, again, that distancing, that isolation, that guilt reminding him that he needs to take a step back. He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve people calling him a hero. It links specifically to that. And then why does Francis want to hide? Remember that guilt, regret, revenge, this inner litany of I am not a hero, I am not somebody to be praised, I am not somebody who is brave, and that scarf acts as that reminder. You are guilty. You are something different. Another item for symbolism, and actually one of my favourites, is the gun. And this gun is talked about only a couple of times throughout. When it is, it's something quite interesting. At one point in the novel, he says it's like a tumour on his thigh. It's heavy, it's there. But then at the end, I pick up the duffel bag and sling it over my shoulder. The weight is nice and comfortable on my back. So what could the gun symbolise? Well, we could say that gun is a symbolism of his guilt. At the beginning, when he feels guilty, when he feels this regret, when he feels like he's caused this thing for Nicole and it's his fault that he didn't fix it, that gun is heavy. It's a tumour. It's there. It's reminding him of what he did. And then after his interaction with Larry, suddenly it's nice and comfortable on my back. Now there's two ways you could take this. You could take it symbolising the fact that his guilt has been lifted. He is, he's free of that. However, the one we most tend to go with is that's his get out of jail free card. He's always going to have that guilt. He didn't stop it. And he tells us all the way through, he reminds us, well, once I've dealt with Larry, I intend to take my own life. So has that gun now become nice and comfortable because now he can do, there's that way out, that salvation, and he is going to take his life. Unfortunately, we never know the answer. But we have those two possibilities there. So who else has a gun? Well, what do people use guns for? Well, obviously we know in the war The gun's there. The life of the two German soldiers, the apple-cheeked young boys. The guns were used against them. That killing of innocents. Who else has a gun? Larry. If we think about the way he pulls that out and tells Francis, I've been thinking about it myself. I have my own. That idea that this gun seems to be an answer to this regret, and guilt. It seems to be the punishment that this gun comes out. And how does the gun remind Francis of the past? Well, obviously we've got those links there to the war, to what he did in the war, that really obvious military link. But also, again, go back to when he was calling it heavy and a tumour. It drags him down. It's always there, this burden he carries. I think that gun is a symbol of that guilt, of what he did, or what he feels, he perceives he did. And it works there constantly throughout the novel. One of the last things we're talking about for symbolism is the rec centre. First things first, look at the name of it, the rec centre. Now remember, when we're looking at the word rec, R-E-C, rec, recreational, a youth centre, community centre, you can see it there on the picture, REC centre. However, when Francis is talking and its nickname is the rec, W-R-E-C-K, destroying, broken, ruining lives centre. And a quote there, it's a bad luck place, a place of doom. Now, in terms of what bad things happen in the rec centre, quite a few, I'm sure you realise. So straight away, we're told about the wedding that happened there, and the murder and homicide and suicide that happened, and that's why it was closed down, that first terrible thing. Then we get Larry that comes down. Although this is portrayed as something wonderful, he's changing it around. Again, look at what that leads to. And again, the rape there of Nicole, that's something that happens in this place. And you can go further still and become more less physical things there. Francis loses his hope, loses his childhood there. He loses a man who he looked at like a father. He loses the love of his life. All these things happen around this rec centre, and I think it's important to look at the way that's spelled, W-R-E-C-K. His life was wrecked. Nicole, her life was wrecked. Because of this building. So how does Francis feel about the rec centre? Well, we know that it's very negative. We know, it's a place of doom. It's a bad luck place. And when you read at the beginning, when he first goes back to it, and he gives us his flashback, as it were, about the first time he met Nicole and Larry coming there. At the end of that chapter, he tells us his face was wet, and it wasn't because of rain, or it wasn't because of his bandages. We can infer there that he's crying as he looks up at this building. And I think that kind of sums up his feelings. This place is a place of deep regret, of deep pain, of guilt, of sadness, and it's wrapped up in Francis throughout. But what does it provide him with? It provides him with a place to base his story. He uses the rec centre to tell us his story, because really all of the events are focused there. And how does Larry use the rec centre to his advantage? Well, if you've watched the other video about Larry, and the Pied Piper of the rec centre, you'll already know a little bit about this. I would recommend looking at that video. If it's not up yet, it will be up soon. And he uses it to his advantage, because he becomes the Pied Piper of the rec centre. This skill of manipulation and this skill of being able to control and use people is just magnetic when you really look at it. He's got a real ability there to take control, and people follow him because he gives this persona of happiness and love and kindness, and wow, isn't this man incredible, that you want to follow him. And he uses it. This rec centre becomes a base to build up that appearance of safety and stability, and this is where you should be. But again, underneath that reality is very, very different. It's used as a tool to get what he wants and to build up to what he wants. Okay, so there are obviously more things linked with symbolism in this novel. These are just three physical things that you can talk about. in your exams, and try and weave them in. If you have a question about reality and appearance, bring the rec center in. If you have a question about guilt or regret or revenge, again, bring in the gun, and bring in those key quotes and key ideas. Just a nice little thing to drop into lots of different essay answers you have, and certainly again, if they pop up in an extract, you'll go, oh, I remember, and you can zoom in on that. So as always, make sure you're doing your revision at home. Send me questions, send me some example answers of anything you've been doing. You can put them in the comments below, or you can put them on the Google Classroom, or you can email me or your teacher directly. If you just go to the school email and start typing in their name, their email will pop up, and I know that they will want those essay answers to mark. Make sure you are revising, make sure you're looking over your notes, and I will see you soon.